All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Glass House Traveled. My name is Mike Verivi. I am a certified bourbon steward and founder of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society. We're going to explore and introduce you guys to America's craft distilleries, microbreweries, industry insiders, and professional imbibers to give you guys the inside scoop on the things you need to be drinking. We're back tonight with episode 2 of season 2 with our good friend Nick Nagele from Whiskey Acres. Nick, how have you been?
Continue to go to the same barber as you.
Looking good there, my friend.
Actually,
looking good.
I think we can make it really weird too.
Not even kidding. I'm really glad I wore this shirt and not the shirt that you're wearing, because this could have got real awkward.
Yeah. Only Wednesday, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how have you been? Let's talk about what's new at the distillery and what's new with you. I mean, we kind of, I don't want to say we're past COVID, but I feel like we're on the up and up, and you guys are starting to get back to a little bit of normalcy. What can we expect from you guys this year?
Well, let's just check one topic of conversation off the box. And yes, we did make hand sanitizer, and no, we're not making it anymore. But I think since we last chatted, we've had a couple pretty substantial releases for our business, as well as won some pretty substantial awards. But I guess I'll kind of give a brief introduction of who I am and what we're doing, in case there's anybody new around here. So I'm Nick Nagele. I'm one of the co-founders of Whiskey Acres Distilling Company over in DeKalb, Illinois. I'm one of 3 founders. My 2 business partners, Jim and Jamie Walter, actually own and operate the farm that we built the distillery on, and their family has been running it since the 1930s. Come from a different family farm about 100 miles south of here, and the 3 of us kind of built the foundation of Whiskey Acres as being a farm first, and very much about utilizing the grain that we grow to create the highest quality bourbon and rye possible. So we often say that we're in the Napa Valley of the Corn Belt, and we truly believe that and feel like we're showcasing that. So we've been in production for I guess since late December of 2014. So we're quickly approaching 7 years. And when we started, we were working with one of our great friends and mentors, Dave Pickerel. He helped us to kind of navigate the bureaucratic waters that exist in distilling, ground true some of our ideas, challenged us with some other ones, and really just became a friend and mentor as we began to run our distillery and learn to become who we are. So as I always like to say, rest in peace. And when we have a glass of Whiskey Acres, we always like to think Dave's spirit is with it, and pun intended, I suppose. So. Over those last years, we have been making whiskey. We run a 500-gallon Vendome copper pot still with an 8-plate column on top of it. We affectionately call it the Dave Pickerel Special, and that allows us to make single pass bourbon. So basically, a 500-gallon batch of mash yields 1 barrel of whiskey. So we have 2 shifts. We have actually one piece of news that I'll say is Rob Wallace has been with us for about 5 years now, and he recently finished his master's work with Heriot-Watt University out of Edinburgh, Scotland, and his thesis was on how varietals of corn affect the flavor of whiskey.
Very cool.
And so his interests really mended well with the practical way that we run the distillery. And just as kind of some fun affirmation to what we've been doing is our bottled and bond bourbon, our bottled and bond rye, and our bourbon finish in maple casks all were awarded double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. Some of that he distilled, and all of that he blended and picked the barrels for. So take that in combination with truly him having a master's in distillation, we have upgraded his title from head distiller to master distiller.
Very cool. Well, cheers to Rob.
Cheers to Rob
and that awesome accomplishment. So you guys have had a ton going on, including the awards that you guys just recently won. Talk about that, because you guys just released the bottled and bond rye, won an award for that. The maple syrup cask, which I don't think you can see behind me, it's just out of frame, but it's on my little shelf over here. It's my all-time favorite. I run out of it all the time because it's only available in 375 milliliter bottles. But it's one of my favorites. So what's it? Kind of talk about like that whole thing of for those that don't know, maybe like the process of sending everything into the judges and then getting that notification and what that whole process is like.
So there are, as a distiller, daily, weekly, receive emails from tasting competitions wanting to solicit our money, time, and product. And I would say a majority of those are metal factories. It's just people wanting to get free whiskey and get paid to drink and taste. We figured out what those are and avoided those at all costs, because we're not sitting in piles of money or product to just give away. So some of the more reputable ones, and I think quite frankly, one of them, the most reputable one, is the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. We also entered Fred Minnick's Ascot Awards, and we're patiently awaiting results from the American Craft Spirits Association. So 3 truly kind of third-party entities that we value and trust, and we think the industry does as well. Mm-hmm. And so just from a process standpoint, step 1 is you write a check. You write a check, and then you spend quite a bit of money to ship it to whatever destination that's required. And you usually send 2 bottles to a centralized location, and then they divvy out samples from there. And it was very different this year, and I think they typically have a central location where whiskey experts, from across the nation and the world, come to a central place and taste. This year, they took whiskey, and I'm not sure how all of them, but I saw some of the tastings. They took whiskey, divvied it up into blind samples, and sent them out to judges, who then tasted on their own, using some fairly strict criteria for what to eat, what not to wear, and timing and all those things. So that, and it was all blind too. So then I assume they put it into a bozo pewter somewhere along the line, and then they get their results out. And specific to the San Francisco, they have X amount of judges, and I believe it's at least 15, but I don't know for sure. And awards are a little bit different. You hear bronze, silver, gold. People often think that there's one bronze medal winner and one silver medal winner and one gold medal winner. This is not Olympics. It's almost a better way to describe it as A, B, C, A plus. It's like a grading score. And so when you get a double gold, what that means is that every judge unanimously gave you a gold medal. And so, for us, we got a gold medal in bottle of Bod bourbon, bottle of Bod rye, bourbon finished in maple syrup casks. And one thing we haven't talked about, just because the other ones were just such a, kind of a surprising and positive shock, is that our blue popcorn also got a gold medal at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. In Fred Minnick's Ascot Awards, our blue popcorn won a double platinum, and our maple cask won a double platinum as well. And yeah, we just haven't made noise on that one yet, but we're about to. So now you know.
Well, very cool.
and our blue popcorn was actually one of 3 whiskeys that was vying for craft whiskey of the world, and we did not get it, but we were one of 3. So we're very proud of being part of that conversation. Considering that's
a small group to be in. 7
years ago, we were an idea. Today we're internationally award-winning product. So we're very proud of that.
Well, it's super awesome. We've been kind of with you. I don't want to say with you guys from the start, but I remember the first time that you and I had met was actually at Buttermilk, like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And I feel like a lot of people, like from the Fox Valley, whether it be, or even out west there in DeKalb and Salmonauke in that area, it's kind of like it doesn't feel like you guys are unapproachable. Like you and Rob and Jamie are like unapproachable. I mean, like we're all friends on Facebook. We all chat with each other regularly. I bug you about doing barrel picks all the time. So
Thank you, by the way. I really like it when you bug me about doing them. That's part of the business plan.
We want to do a lot more. So, it's just really cool when you guys when this distillery that's doing so well, that's winning all these awards, is putting out all of this fantastic whiskey. You guys are just super approachable, and you're always willing to pick up your phone or shoot an email and just kind of like be there to answer questions. So, it's super cool to have you on the show and and to do all that. And then to announce that you guys won double platinum on your from Fred is a huge bragging right. So I want to talk about let's see here. I want to talk about barrel proof. So you guys obviously have your distiller select that Rob picked, your rye and your bourbon. I know that some of the artisan series is also cask strength. Do you guys have any plans outside of the distiller series, which was just a limited release, outside of the artisan series? Are there any plans in the works for you guys something that you have barreled now that you're thinking, okay, we're going to do this, kind of almost like an Elijah Craig, where they release their Elijah Craig small batch and then they have their barrel proof that they release 3 times a year? Is there anything in the works from you guys that is going to be released barrel proof as it kind of grows in popularity and people want that, that cask strength product?
So yes and no. We intend, we kind of have to look at our business through 2 different channels. So the most easy channel to look at and understand is our visitor center. And you've had the opportunity to have our Distillers Reserve through there. And we look at that as that's where we're going to sell Distillers Reserve. That's a reason to get people to come to us. And we actually just put a new barrel of Distillers Reserve rye on the shelf this morning. Maybe it was, yeah. So maybe it was this week, but very, very recently. Mm-hmm. And we've got another barrel pick to do a Distillers Reserve bourbon as well. So we, generally speaking, intend moving forward to have those as part of our product offering at the distillery. There'll be a couple gaps here and there just because of timing of, when we sell through them, but we'd like that to be on our shelf, in our cocktail menu, and available in tasting flights. Now, as it relates to down market, with third-party partners, what we do there is we have a single barrel program where retailers can work through us or through our distributor to do barrel picks. Mm-hmm. And we have the option of doing an 87 proof pick, a 100 proof bottled and bond pick, or a cask strength pick. And so, like, currently, and I'm going to forget some, so I apologize, but just kind of off the top of my head, around Illinois, the liquor and wine chain has them. We're about to ship several to Binny's, Niche, Flight in Yorkville, Woodman's in Aurora, just Hy-Vee in DeKalb. Mm-hmm. So probably right now, if you go, kind of looking around, there's probably at least 8 or 10 single barrels that are out there that it's really it's on the store to make that decision to take a single barrel on. We want to keep the Distillers Reserve special, but we also do want to have an opportunity for other places to pick.
Sure. So we've done, with the Fox Valley, we've done 2 picks ourselves. I have a couple of them behind me. I was foolish and I only ended up getting 1 bottle of the Glass Gem, which I'm kind of kicking and kicking myself about. Fortunately, though, I do have the bottle that it seemed what we dubbed as Blue Acres, the 75% rye and 25% blue popcorn. One of those will not be getting opened because it seems like it was signed by just about everybody.
We found some strangers on the street to sign that one too.
Yeah, it's looked like I couldn't distinguish a lot of them, but it looked like maybe Rob's wife had signed it. Is her name Lindsay?
Rob's wife, Lindsay. My wife signed it.
I saw that she signed it. You signed it. Chad signed it. Everybody at Oak and Swine signed it. Yep. So as these single barrels become more popular, especially like with clubs like ours, are you getting more and more requests as you guys kind of get bigger and you start to win these awards and you start to kind of grow in popularity? Are you starting to see more clubs coming in to, shooting emails and
anecdotally, in the past, the way we would manage single barrels is I'm kind of the point person for sales. So somebody, you reach out to me and say, Nick, I want to do single barrels. And then, we work out the details and then I text Rob, I need you to pick 4 or 5 barrels for Mike. I need them in 10 days. And then we just would do that over text message. We've had to transition to a Google Sheet where, so we're certainly not overwhelmed and certainly have capacity to do more, but it's not something that we can sort of haphazardly manage through a Google Sheet anymore or through a text message anymore. So
it was nice when we could just do it via text message, like, hey, Nick, I need some sample.
You could still do that, but Rob and I have to manage it internally to make sure that we're not emptying. One of the biggest challenges for doing a single barrel is we've got a finite amount of whiskey, especially as, we're still relatively infantile. We made the investment in time and barrels to be able to be at our position now where we have 4 to 6 year product that's aged in, mature and large barrels, but we don't have as much as we will next year and the year after. While we're doing single barrel picks, we have to take those barrels. If I send them to you and you do a group tasting, it's often 3 to 6 weeks before I get results or a decision back from your group. And so those 4 or 5 barrels are just in purgatory, and I can't do anything with them from a blending standpoint to add them to our other stuff. So it just creates kind of a secondary layer of management that we have to do to make sure that we're not dumping things for our standard blends that are single barrel picks. Sure. So it's not rocket science, but it is a layer of management and quite a bit of work to just make sure that we're keeping track of all those things.
Oh, I bet.
Rob loves cask strength things because all that means is take barrel, dump barrel, put in bottle. There's no proofing, because when we do something at bottle and bond strength or at our 87 straight bourbon offering, it's several days of letting that we empty the barrel, then we add the water, let it mend, and proof it down in stages so that water and whiskey get to know each other before it goes into a barrel or into a bottle, I should say. And so that ties up tanks and, it's a process and, it's a difference between literally a 3-minute dump versus, 2 or 3 hours of time and management over a span of a week.
Well, it's good to know that when we choose cask strength, it makes it a little bit easier on you guys.
Yes.
So you had mentioned
Rob was thankful.
Yeah. So you had mentioned, obviously with the bottled and bond, with the 4-year, the 4-year minimum. You had mentioned that you have some 6-year-old barrels. When starting a distillery, especially now at this point, you have to kind of look into the future and say, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to bottle? What's our 10-year plan or 15-year plan, so on and so forth. You guys started distilling in what, 2014?
The very end of 14. Very end of 14.
So what does it look like for the future for you guys with age statements? It seems like a lot of these distilleries, as bourbon grows in popularity, you're starting to see age statements drop off of bottles because now you've got these guys like Heaven Hill and Jim Beam with Knob Creek. They're losing the age statements because now they have to take that whiskey and they have to blend it down into some of their other brands. So you're losing that age statement.
We're the
what
opposite.
Does it look like?
It's such a different. So you've got these old established distilleries that were traditionally bottling 6, 7, 8 year stuff, and they're starting to put younger stuff in. So their age is going down, and they're pulling their age statements because people have an expectation for a particular age on a particular product. Our age statements are going up. So instead of removing them, we're adding them and making them bigger. Just for instance, our straight bourbon. I just, all of our bottles are screen printed. So I just had the only update I made was I updated from age at least 2 years to age at least 4 years. So all of our straight bourbon, that's our kind of our standard offering, is at least 4 years old. Our bottled and bond currently has that same age statement where it says age at least 4 years, but it has a tax strip on it that tells you the harvest that it's affiliated with. So really what our bottled and bond offering is at least 5 years old and quickly getting closer to 6 years old. And because of, we can forecast, but we've got to grow with the whiskey, we've got to grow with the demand. And we also, when you print 5,000 to 10,000 bottles at a time, you don't want to overextend your age statement and that kind of stuff. So our goal is kind of the opposite of what you're observing, is to continue to bump up the age statement. But quite honestly, our straight bourbon is going to be a 4 to 5 year old product. Our bottle and bond is going to be a 5 to 6 year product. Will we have some older releases of some one-offs? Absolutely. But we've tasted through this stuff enough that we're very, very happy with the progress that it's made. We no longer have it's not 4 years old excuse. We don't have any small barrel caveats we give anymore. This is well made, well aged, well distilled, well blended product that it is what we planned for it to be. I just wish I could share a drink with Dave Pickerel today. That if I could just get his affirmation. We've got all these global awards. I want to sit belly to belly with Dave and just have him smile.
Well, you guys, when when you and I had first met, and when I had first gone on the tour, you had talked about how Dave had, done on, he had done lab samples on the aquifer that you guys sit on, and it's, how it's essentially chemically identical to the limestone water that is fed throughout Kentucky. There's this, I feel like there's a huge hurdle that a lot of these craft distilleries have to kind of overcome. Just like you said, it was printed on the bottle. It's at least 2 years old. And I was listening to Bourbon Pursuit the other day, and one of the questions was age statements. Can you make a good whiskey at 2 years old? And then another question is, with you guys, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when you had a 2-year product, it had that flavor profile that people grew to love, and they grew to know. Are you finding that it's more difficult now to kind of keep that flavor profile as the whiskey gets older, or are you guys just kind of evolving with the whiskey and saying, this is the product that we have now, it's going to continue to grow and change and mature and get better over time?
Mash bill hasn't changed at all. So the same juice that's in it was in the 2-year small barrel stuff is in the large barrel 5-year stuff. So the foundation is there. It's the same water, it's the same grain, it's the same process. So I think we would be bad distillers and should be ashamed of ourselves if what we're making today and what we're bottling today is not better than what we were putting in a bottle 3 years ago. So you've got so many factors. Age is the most obvious, but maybe not the most important. Just the fact that our skill level, our intuition and just knowledge of the process is increasing. Literally, our master distiller went and got a master's degree in distillation. So hopefully all that time and money we spent on that project is reflected in the actual product. And then I think an often maybe misunderstood or not looked at a topic is just quantity of barrels when it comes to a craft distillery. So, when we were putting our first whiskey in a bottle, it was like, we have 6 barrels and that's what's going to go in a bottle. Today we have, I'm not really, this is a really number, but let's say we have 60 barrels. And so Rob can go out and I tell him, okay, I need 500 cases. Rob can go out and pick samples from 60 barrels and put a blend together that's only 10 barrels. And it's the 10 barrels that make the best blend. So just the fact that every year we get older, we have more barrels to choose from. We can choose from multiple distillation years. We can choose from different corn varietal strains. There's different things there that help us to be more well-rounded and just a better offering that isn't directly related to just being older. It's because we have more resources in the warehouse to make a better product.
Speaking of having more barrels, this is the perfect segue into this next question. I don't remember who it was. Somebody from the group posted a comment about Linford Winery, and that they are now selling their barrels. And I think they tagged you and it said, oh, you should age a barrel. And then you immediately, within minutes, posted a picture and said, that's a good idea. So you guys have laid down a bourbon. I assumed a bourbon that was already aged in barrels already. And now you're finishing it in a Linford Winery barrel. Kind of talk about that. And, with that project, is it just the one, obviously this is just kind of an experiment now to see how it goes, but, we kind of talked about that 10-year plan and where you guys see yourselves in the future. I look at distilleries like Starlight who are finishing in this barrel and that barrel and this barrel. And I mean, things that nobody's ever even heard of. Do you guys kind of have plans to do something a little bit more along the finished bourbon or the finished rye to add maybe to the artisan series?
So from a core focus, what you should expect from us every year with consistency from a barrel aging standpoint is maple syrup finished bourbon. So I thought you'd be happy with that. Other things that we have in the mix that are just one-offs, we've got the Linford, we've got bourbon finishing in no chino casks. We're going to try some beer cask with some local brewery partners. We've got barrels made from oak that came from the Morton Arboretum. We do not intend to sort of have this shotgun approach into scale of barrel aging and finishing and other things. But this barrel and that barrel and this, these kind of one-offs are things that allow us to showcase something specifically through the visitor center. And if we find something that's just an absolute cherry that we know we need to replicate, we'll explore that. But right now, this is really just kind of us kind of scratching an itch of, we think this will work. And we've got the perfect venue in our visitor center to do that.
What kind of wine was it? Can you disclose was it a Chardonnay? Was it a
red wine?
Or it was a red wine. Okay.
And I'm not being facetious or coy when I give you that answer. That's the answer they were able to give me. It was a multiple use red wine barrel.
Okay.
So that's what they knew about it, and that's what I now know about it.
I want swallowed wrong. I want to remind everybody that's watching right now, this is live. Take a look at the little notation down here on the screen. If you guys have questions, feel free to, whether you're on Facebook, I'm looking at this screen now, or watching on YouTube, you can ask questions if there is anything that you guys want answered by Nick. So I want to talk about, we had kind of, you had mentioned how you guys screen print your logo and all the information on the bottle. I want to talk about the secondary market and packaging and all of that. I was recently listening to a podcast, and I think there's this kind of disconnect from the consumer and the distillery, where specifically craft distilleries, where consumers will walk into a liquor store and they see a product on the shelf from a craft distillery that may be 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, and it's like $70. It's some crazy amount of money for a young product. Can you kind of talk about, just to kind of clear the air and explain why a craft distillery has to charge more than, say, like an Evan Williams bottled and bond, which is, a 4-year product that's selling for like, $18. Can you kind of go into that pricing of what all is involved and why craft distilleries just in general have to charge more for their product when it's on the shelf?
Well, the first thing I'll say is specific to Whiskey Acres is because it's better. You're paying for something that's quality. I would put, I would double the price of, I would pay double of Evan Williams to drink what we have versus the bottle of bond product. So it needs to be of quality. But then just go into the basics of scale. When Evan Williams is distilling, or whomever that's kind of one of those big boys, they oversimplifying it, they flip a switch, and at the end of the day, they've made 200 barrels.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we've run two shifts and we've made 2.
Right.
So just volume. I'm sure that those bigger places are buying bottles by the container as opposed to by the pallet. So there's just those price points there. Then just everything's more expensive when you're small. There's no other way to
right.
to distill that down. Is everything's more expensive when you're small. And then if you go and actually do the math against what it costs, you've got there are distilleries out there, big distilleries that are selling something like Evan Williams that have their at retail is more than a lot of places cost to produce.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the other thing I would say from I have my beer fridge filled with local breweries.
Mm-hmm.
Just anecdotally here. That's a lot more expensive than if I were to go have bought Busch Latte or whatever those are. And I'm damn happy to pay that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can go now, I can go visit all these incredible breweries that are around here, and I'm supporting local families and local processes and know they're going to be there because there's people like us spending money with them. And so from a consumer standpoint, as it relates to distilling, is, if you'd really like to have, somebody successful and somebody local and somebody you could support as they grow, at the end of the day, if you're spending, $5 or $10 more bucks on a bottle of booze, is it, if it's that big of a hurt, you might want to, reach for the ice water, and if you then take that bottle and compare it to if you're sitting in a bar you're spending 5 or 10 more bucks for a 750 versus spending 10 or 15 bucks on a 1.5 ounce pour. It's all relative.
Sure.
So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's all about scale and where you're willing to support, who you're willing to support with their dollars.
We see a lot of these craft distilleries, that are that are charging upwards of $200 and $300. I won't name any names, but there's a distillery in Texas that they'll put 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old whiskey, which is still good, good whiskey. They put it in this big, ornate bottle, and they wax dip it, and there's ribbons wrapped around it, and they've got this flashy packaging. It's in a box, and it retails for like $200-$300, and people are buying it. And it's like, it's just, it's craft whiskey. It's good, but it's like, what am I spending $200 on? Where I think a lot of craft distillers, like you guys have just taken a great approach to just saying, I'm not gonna, I don't need to fancy up the bottle, because it's not about the bottle. It's not about the packaging. It's about the product inside the bottle. We
want our bottle to be approachable.
Exactly. What I think one of the things that I noticed when I first saw your bottle was that it's kind of refreshing to see just there's nothing particularly flashy about it. It's a screen printed label. It tells you exactly what's in it. And it's a damn good product, and you've got these other guys that are, they got to dip everything in wax, and they have to, display it in this big package that has the plexiglass that you can lift up, and it's a big display case, and it's like $200-$300. So
that's not our brand, and that's not a place that we'll go. And if a distillery can make high quality enough alcohol and spin it through the marketing buzz to get people to spend that kind of money, God bless them. The easiest bottle to sell is your first. The hardest bottle to sell is your second. So you've really got to make sure that the plan you put together is something. You've got to be able to make the liquid in the product enjoyable, and you've got to make the price point at a place where it's repeatable.
Sure.
And we're trying to hover in that space.
Sure. So I see. So we got a question from Mark. We were waiting for him to chime in. Talking about one of the your one-off artisan series. When will you guys be releasing the Bloody Butcher corn?
Well, Mark, what proof do you want me to put it at? Just why don't you tell me? We could do the Mark special, and it's scheduled for either fourth quarter this year or first quarter next year.
Okay.
So one of the challenges that we have is I can tell you that we will release our blue popcorn in the fourth quarter. We'll have another release of our bottle and bond rye in the fourth quarter. We'll have our maple cask sometime in September. We'll have Nocino in early November. We'll actually, through the distillery, we'll have bourbon finished in Nocino casks in November as well. And so we just have to be mindful of not over releasing as well. Mark, for instance, God bless you, Mark, you're a wonderfully loyal customer, but we also recognize that if we come up with, a release every third week, we're gonna run people dry. And so we just need to be respectful of kind of the calendar. And when it comes to, I can look at a bottle, or we can go taste through a barrel and it's ready today. Well, if it's ready today, but the calendar doesn't allow us to release it, it's not, nothing's going to hurt if it sits for another 6 or 8 weeks. With few exceptions. We are also mindful if we've got something special and it's aged and ready to go, we'll dump it into a stainless to make sure it doesn't get over oaked.
Sure.
So as soon as we can, Mark, as soon as we can.
I'm just waiting for that next release of the maple syrup cask. I want to talk about the secondary market real quick with how it kind of relates to craft distilleries. Now, a lot of us who are watching this and who will be watching this later, myself included, Nick, I'm sure you're probably on a lot of them, but you kind of keep an eye on those secondary social media pages just to kind of see what people are selling things for. I'm curious, as from the producer's side of it, from the distilling side of things, as a distillery, when you let's just say you saw a bottle of Whiskey Acres, whatever, go for some outrageous amount of money, let's say $200 or $300, somebody was asking for it. I'm curious if that's something that kind of just gets under your skin and really boils your blood, that somebody's A, asking that much for it, and B, that other people are willing to pay for it. Or on the flip side of that coin, does it kind of get you excited thinking like, oh my God, people are literally willing to spend hundreds of dollars for my product? You know, you look at distilleries like Smoke Wagon, Blue Note, Garrison Brothers, who are going for sometimes thousands of dollars on the secondary market. You know, we know with Smoke Wagon, we know how it makes him feel, but you know, I'm curious to hear from the person who's, you know, running the business, or one of the people that's running the business. How does that secondary kind of make you feel? Would you be kind of excited to see that your product is so sought after, or would you be like what the fuck?
It's both, you know. So we all have an ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's good business to keep that ego in check. But when you see, you know, something selling for an obscure amount of money, that certainly feeds the ego. And so, you know, that brings you that joy, you know, that pride of people are really, you know, supporting you and your brand. On the complete and total flip side of that, though, is I'd rather see our product be accessible. You know, we when we put something into distribution, we try to do it in a way that it hits enough retail partners that people don't always have to drive to DeKalb, that people can find something conveniently in their neighborhood. And maybe what does get under my skin is like when we have something that releases really quickly, or that sells out really quickly, you know, for like our blue popcorn and our maple cast, those things are just, you know, don't wait on those.
Mm-hmm.
But people have learned that. We've learned that, you know, when you're releasing something, like, we have no idea, you know, is there going to be 5 people in line, or 50 people in line, or 200 people in line? And we've learned for those, you better be in line. But what bugs me is when, you know, we have to make that post that says, okay, sold out. And then somebody says, dang, I wish I would have got one. And then there's that troll that says, I have 6 bottles, PM me. Somebody else says, I'm, you know, gosh, wish I could have got it. I have 6 bottles, PM me. That's the one that's like, you know, don't make it your business to resell my stuff.
Right.
You know, give somebody a fair opportunity to grab it. So, you know, I'm talking on both sides of your question here, but I think it's truly like, I'd rather our business be successful because we're making a fair price and approachable product that people can get without having to, you know, have pitchforks and 2x4s to get at it. And you know, but at the same time, we have to manage the message as well. And not, we don't make very much whiskey. At the end of the day, we don't make very much whiskey. So we often tell people to be calm about it and you know, don't worry. But the reality is, you know, we're just a blip in the whiskey world. Yeah. And you know, as we continue to grow, folks will need to pay attention to get our stuff.
Yeah. I would, I mean, you know, I look at it from, you know, from a club that's done barrel picks, and, you know, especially on the secondary market, you see all these barrel picks. I would be thrilled if I saw one of our barrel picks on secondary. Somebody was like, well, 100, 150 bucks. I'd be like, oh my God, what? We're like, are we famous now? So I want to talk about distribution here before we kind of wrap things up. Specifically, you know, talking outside of Illinois. So I'm in South Carolina now. I do have the, you know, I have the advantage of being able to get your product legally through Sealbox, who thankfully delivers to South Carolina now. South Carolina just opened up delivery of spirits. But I also am thankful to have friends in Illinois and Kentucky and Louisville and all over the country ship me packages of olive oil and essential oils.
Copious amounts of olive oil.
I get a shipment of olive oil 2, sometimes 3 times a week. What does it look like?
Let me hit you pause there. I want to get on a little bit of a pulpit here. To anybody and everybody who's listening here, the state of Illinois does not allow us to ship to you out of the state, within the state. It is an archaic law that is just entrenched in a system. I'm a member of the Illinois Craft Distillers Association. We've often worked with the Craft Brewers Guild, and every time we try to you know, approach this, we get hit with a buzzsaw. If there were ever a time in which direct-to-consumer shipment would have made sense, it would have been the last 16 months. We could have hired a shipping and distribution, shipping and handling team that could have been packaging stuff 8 to 10 hours a day, but we can't. So I just bring this up in that if you see something from us or from a distillers association or a brewers association regarding reach out to your legislators for this conversation, please do it. Please help us, because we do not have any funds. We are a grassroots organization run by people who are trying to run a business, and we're volunteering our time to try and help grow the industry for the good of our businesses as well as for the good of consumers, and that is something that just quite honestly makes no sense and is pure politics that is not evolving, and we need your help to change this. So sorry, there's my
Kentucky does it now. I mean, there's states that are doing it. It only makes sense. But like I said, fortunately we do have. There's legal ways around it. There's illegal ways around it. Obviously, it's which road do you want to take? I do want to talk about Sealbox here for just a second, because you guys were just recently picked up by them with Brian who runs Bourboner.
Blake,
he's been
Blake
who runs Bourboner. He's been kind of a driving force in the bourbon industry, working with legislation and working with lawmakers, to kind of be able to do this. And I mean, he started it just after finding a loophole. What was it like, and specifically with Sealbox, because they only deal with craft distillers. What's it like dealing with them, and how exciting? How did that work? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? Was it kind of like a mutual thing? I mean, what happened there in order to make that deal?
Way back, we'll call it 2-3 years ago, Blake and I had a conversation, just sort of an introductory of here's who we are and here's who he is, and we have really been sort of playing ping pong about doing this, and we really wanted to make sure that we had products at a point we wanted them to for lack of a better word, kind of a national spotlight in supply, or in volume, and so 2021 is really kind of a turnkey year for us, where we can our bottle and bond is something that we have supply that can get out of the state. Our straight bourbon and straight rye, similar. Our bottle and bond rye, doesn't have that kind of volume yet, but we wanted to use Sealbox as a way. For the last year, 15-20 messages a week. You guys shipped. You guys shipped. You guys shipped. And so, we partnered with Blake and the Sealbox team to make sure that we can. I don't remember, it's 22 states or something like that. It's not as big as we'd like it to be, but it's certainly a whole lot better than just saying no, sure. Which is what we've had to do. And we, you and I laugh about the olive oil thing. Our business can't do that.
Right.
The risk for to make a few bucks to send somebody a bottle mislabeled is not something we will or can do. I'd love to do it legally. I'd love to pay FedEx or USPS or whoever it is, and clearly put on there it's alcohol, and make sure somebody who's 21 or older signs for it. It's what built Napa.
Yeah.
From a purely financial standpoint, if we could take the several hundred visitors we have a day come through, and even a small percentage of them sign up for a program that says, I want to be part of your releases, and have them pay as we go, and then we set aside a particular amount of that product to go, and it ships. I mean, that's employees, and that's revenue, and that's the point of being in this business.
Yeah.
So, but Sealbox has been a great partner. As it relates to other states, again, we take a very measured approach. That the last thing I want to do is put our Illinois partners on allocation because I've sent something to Texas.
Sure.
So every year that we're in operation, our volume increases fairly substantially. I think we'll probably peak in the next 2 years, because I'm sure you know this, but when we started, we put a barrel program together of 15, 25, and 53 gallon barrels. And we filled essentially an equal amount of those on year one. Year two, we filled 25 and 53 gallon barrels. Year three and beyond, we're only filling large barrels. And so for year 3, 4, and 5, we had a full-time distiller and kind of a part-time distiller. Now moving forward, we have 2 full-time distillers. I mentioned Rob. I didn't mention our other distiller, Eric Stotko, who's been on our team for, I think we're pushing 2 years now. He's fantastic. He's reliable. He makes good whiskey. But as it's related to this conversation, he's double our capacity.
Sure.
So you could not really run another drop of whiskey through our still than what we're doing right now. And so what that will do is allow us to get our volume up, and eventually make it to other states if we want. But I also believe there's so much opportunity within the state of Illinois for us to grow here. To use very, very round numbers, annually we're making 130 to 150,000 bottles. So it's really not that much. If we could pick one peer in the beer industry that we'd like to model, it'd be New Glarus. If we could just have that kind of loyal following and have folks come to us and come to the state to seek out something that's unique to here, that would be ideal. But we're not going to take the approach of more states and more distribution partners is better. They need to be strategic. They need to be in line with our values, and it just needs to be something that we can support. I do not want to ship product to somebody to then sell out here.
Right. So we're about to wrap up now. Normally I ask kind of, just one final question, which was actually, I think already answered. It was if you were a potato, how would you like to be cooked? I want
to amend that. I think I said twice baked.
You said twice baked.
Yeah, but it's still twice baked, but I want twice baked sweet potato with butter, chives, bacon, cheddar. I'm
going mashed or scalloped all day.
Somebody else is making it
with cheese and bacon. Well, yeah, like homemade real mash, not like from a box, but like homemade mash. So since that one was already answered, let's do this.
I'll add the potato pancakes. I changed my mind.
Shit, I love potato pancakes.
Potato pancakes.
Do you do them with sour cream or applesauce?
Both.
Yeah, see, that's the way to do it.
I'm a pervert like that. It's really weird.
So here's another one. Who would play you? Who would play in a Hollywood movie about your life? Who would play you?
Way back in college, I used to get daily beautiful girls coming up to me saying, "You look just like Matthew McConaughey."
Oh my!
And they'd be like, "My boyfriend loves Matthew McConaughey." And I'm like, "Oh, great!" So back then I had a little more hair and a little less beer belly, so that would be, I guess, my pick, based purely off of other. So Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson.
Oh, Woody Harrelson for sure. I could see Woody Harrelson. Yeah.
If you'd have seen me back, I never had like the flowing locks, but Woody Harrelson, probably from Kingpin, where he's got the belly and all that stuff, would probably be the best representation for me right now.
So, somebody told me that for me, they would expect to see either Jack Black or Zach Galifianakis, and I was like, oh, like, all right, yeah, I guess I'll give it to you. I'll give you that one. All right, Nick, thanks for chatting with us. Thanks everybody who tuned in and who's going to be tuning in later.
Hey, I want to tell you, we're going to pull maple cask. I'll get you a single barrel.
Yes. Been asking for it for I think like 2 years now.
I know. And tell everybody to go pick it up at Oak and Swine and eat some of Byron's fantastic food.
Oh yes, yeah. So all of our single barrel releases, I think except for one this year, are going to go through our preferred partner Oak and Swine. We do have a release of MGP Remus going through Hamar's in Geneva. Those guys have been absolutely fantastic to us. I love Jessel and everybody that works over there and at Global Brew. Global Brew has done some picks with you guys as well.
Actually, I was going to bring that up when earlier we were talking about single barrel picks. I went and just checked my spreadsheet. And I wanted to bring up Global Brew and Jazal at Hammers or Hammars. We're working on another single barrel with them as well. So
those guys,
I don't want to make anybody mad because I forgot to bring anybody up here. So I checked my spreadsheet. I was going through my text messages to Rob here. So
who's on the list?
That's right.
Those guys at Hammars and I can't remember who they partner with. Tuscan. Yeah, Tuscan's son. Those guys, I mean, just pick some phenomenal barrels. So, definitely, when whether you're searching out Whiskey Acres or the big guys, whoever it may be. Obviously there's the big liquor stores that you've got in the Midwest, but definitely shop local. They might be a little bit more expensive, but it's supporting a family-run business. And definitely go check out Oak and Swine. Our next bottle of Sonoma rye whiskey will be releasing next week. We'll have.
I saw it there. I've seen the boxes. It's there.
Did you see the bottle? The bottle's beautiful. It was
I did
delayed because of the foil that they use for the label.
Okay.
Totally okay with it. After seeing what it looks like, I'm like, you could have delayed it another month. I would have been okay with it. We'll do, obviously we have more, on the calendar. At least we have more on the calendar with you guys, but definitely go to Oak and Swine, check out the barrel picks that they're doing and that we're working on them with. Subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to like this video. We've got more coming up. Nick, you got anything before we log off?
Next time, let's wear wigs. See what happens.
And I expect to see some chops from you too.
I've been told not to.
Okay. Well,
I did the monkey tail. I did the burn sides. I've pretty much explored all I can.
Exhausted your options.
Yeah,
there's
right.
a circular beard now that you can do too. You can just kind of, but I don't have anything that grows up here, so I can't.
It have to connect to my eyebrows somehow.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. We'll have the podcast version of this done later on this afternoon, so you can listen to it tomorrow. You can listen to Nick and I ramble on about whiskey and potatoes and who would play us in a Hollywood movie. Everybody, cheers. Thanks for tuning in. Nick, hang out for a little bit. See you.